When you think of going to the UK, you may think of going to London, England. You may want to visit sites of Jack the Ripper or even Harry Potter. But in the winter of 2006, the quiet town of Ipswich, Suffolk, became the epicenter of a nightmare. 5 women vanished, 5 bodies were found, and a community was left paralyzed by fear. This is the story of Steven Gerald James Wright, known to the world as the Suffolk Strangler. Behind the headlines and horror lies his deepest story of trauma, vulnerability, and the lives that were long lost before they were taken.
Ipswich it's a lovely town actually. It's a great place for the holidays, and that's when it's time when these horrific crimes had taken place. If you went on the outskirts and you went into the red light district, you might be asking for some trouble there. It's known for drones and ladies of the night, if you will. And in December 10th, I believe, of the 2009 year, it was just that was happening. But they would be picked up and women around the town there, and they would be taken out into the outskirts, which is where it was originally found.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Criminal Psychology Files. This is Greg Stewart, and today we're going to connect on Steven Wright, also known as the Suffolk Strangler, over in Suffolk, England, in the Ipswich area. And what makes this crime so unique is that this person wanted to have a way of making him be known because of what he grew up with in reference to a military police officer father, a mother who left, marriages that failed, and he had to be recognized. But he also went through depression. And we all have a lot of these symptoms, but we don't go around killing people. But unfortunately, this person was hollering and screaming within to be known, to be sort of famous in a way. And so he was able to accomplish that. But once again, here's a person and their PTSD that evolved them from a strict military police father who his brother says he never measured up. He always basically would make threats like, I'm going to hurt myself, or I'm going to do this, though he never really did, which means, yes, we could say a cry for help. But what it also means is that I want attention. I may never really do it, but I want attention and I'm going to get it. And when he realized that people were just blowing him off, his brother, his family and friends, 2 wives who basically divorced from him. So I have to do something. I have to find purpose. And his purpose also came in the form of a fantasy. So now he was creating his fantasies by meeting women of the night and basically making them feel comfortable enough because they said he was a likable guy. When people were speaking about this person, before they knew who it was, hey, what do we know about Steven Wright? Other than sometimes a little bit weird, but he seems to be a likable guy. So we're going to break into this. But before we do, if you can, please subscribe, please like, and please comment and share because it really helps the podcast grow. And now, without further ado, let's get into the Suffolk Strangler, coming up right now on Criminal Psychology Files.
When the first body was discovered, the forensic specialist can tell that it was laying in the woods, which is where they found it along a brook in the wooded area of Ipswich. At first, they had a theory, and the theory was that perhaps this woman could be a streetwalker. She had certain tattoos that it would indicate her life and her lifestyle. And when they investigated more, that they were able to tell that this was a person of that occupation. They could put a name to the body, and the body was posed in a unique way, as if whoever killed her wanted people to know that they did it, and they wanted to almost show off, and they wanted to be seen and known, which put a red flag with the detectives. Because this could be the sign of not just a killer, but a serial killer. And when they were able to put a name to the body they found, they realized that it came up as Nellie Alverton. 24-year-old mother, a survivor of domestic abuse when you look at her record. And she was last seen boarding a train to Ipswich. This was what the police feared. This was one of the things where the red light district would drive droves and droves of men and women. Women to find an easy buck, but never so easy when you're selling yourself. And creepy men looking to disrespect her and worse. Any woman in this area of the red light district.
Nellie Alderton, 24 years old, domestic abuse survivor, and a mother. Here she is in her last moments. She's going to work. At least that was the belief system. She was a street worker. And she already had a tough exterior, but she also had to find ways to deal with her PTSD. So if you were to look online at documentaries in reference to the Suffolk Strangler, there's an indication that she was a streetwalker, and you could see in the video footage she is very fidgety. Very fidgety. They have her in a train, they have her going down a stairwell, but in the train you could see while the train is moving, she's not still. And so she has this built into her. She has to make money, she has to make a living, and she's going out, and unfortunately she meets her demise by this person, Steven Wright. But again, I don't also want to make this about Steven. I want to make this most importantly about the victims. Here's a person who already got a second chance in reference to going through domestic abuse, but people say, well, why would she go back? Well, again, you're looking to make a living. You don't have enough confidence in yourself. You're trying, even though you've done some things in reference to surviving, but you don't have confidence. What am I going to do? I don't have anything to fall back on, and I have to do what I have to do. And so that's what she did. And unfortunately, as I said, she ran into Steven Wright, and this person, unfortunately, took her life, posed her in a way to get shock value from the police. Also say, you can't catch me if you can. I'm one up on you. I'm the smartest person, because you have no clues and nothing has come into fruition. So let's see what the police say now in reference to what are they going to do, because now they're concerned that there is a serial killer, because this at this point was the second or third victim at this point. I believe it was the second before Tanya Nickel was the first one, I believe. But they obviously are seeing an MO, they're seeing a pattern, and within this pattern, they're noticing we have a serial killer on our hands.
When they found Annie, it was the interesting way she was posed. It was as they crossed her arms together as if she was holding herself, so to speak. And then on top of that, it was as if they took the time to fix her hair a certain way. She had very dyed blondish hair. And it was as if the killer had taken the time to comb it back. Now, I don't know if there was some guilt there and they felt bad for what they have done, or if this was part of the fetish, if you will, the fantasy that the killer had. Either way, it was still very, very scary that this person had this kind of time to think about how to place this person. And it's a lot about human psychology, the calmness of such a person who it also came to be that she was either asphyxiated with something or strangled in her last moments on earth.
It was 6 days when they found Annalee, but she was the second body that was actually found. And then another body came up. A total of 8 days since the forensic team seen that Annalee had to be killed, murdered, and died. And now another body 2 days later, for a total of 8 days, 3 bodies have been found. And this one, unlike the other one, was posed in a way that was where Annalee looked like she was being sort of taken care of, if you will. But this particular woman was found closer to the road, to be seen off the side. If you were looking, driving down, posed closer to the woods that came up on the street, as if he was mocking the police, testing them. Catch me if you can. Now they knew, even more so, that whoever's doing this is becoming more and more confident by the minute, because he has no respect for these ladies and also law enforcement. He actually believes he's a step ahead of us, and we need to do something, and do it now.
As I circle back to Annalay, one of the reasons why I am is because at first we could have the names of the other 2 ladies that we had, and because of the tattoos and because we were able to find the identity of Annalay, we would trace her whereabouts, if you will. We found out that she had a boyfriend, and we approached him and we said, you know, your lady's been missing for days, and we didn't get nothing from you in reference to a report or anything. And so the chap said to me, he said, well, mate, Annalay has a history of being gone for days at a time and coming home. From what I gather is that she was going to her mom's because she said bringing gifts or getting some gifts from her mom. And I would see her like usual, and when she did a return out, and when I just figured this is her usual pattern, her usual routine, because it always was. And we confirmed that with her mum. And we found out through CCTV that she was on the train and in the railway going up and down the stairs to the streets. And now she was in the district route. And unfortunately, as you already know, we found the body. And it was confirmed that she was threatening or fixated from whoever had taken her life.
So the police begin to go out to the streets and talk to some women of the night. And they said, is there anybody in particular that made you nervous, that made you feel like this person needs to be looked at or watch out because he could be trouble? And one person's name came up. They said, there is this one guy, and normally when he comes up, he's a little more aggressive or staring a little more, and he always appears to be under the influence. He's always like drunk or something to that extent. And most of us know to stay away from him, but he's approached, us on numerous occasions, and a few of us, we've had a red flag or two about this guy. And they said, do you have a name? He goes by Steven. He's like a truck driver. And so they interview a couple other ladies. They go, oh, you're talking about Steven Wright, the truck driver, right? So they had that. That was how they were able to get in. Do you know a truck driver by the name Steven Wright? And he came up. And that's when the investigation really began to open, because at this point, 8 weeks have gone by. They have 5 bodies. And now they finally have a possible suspect. And so we're going to see how this plays out in reference to gathering evidence. Is that this their guy? And what is the next step to go?
When we were looking into Steven Wright, we noticed he liked to frequent massage parlors, actually. And where we actually found him later, when we were putting our evidence together, truth be told, he was walking out of one of those massage parlors, and we figured this is how he controls the monster. This is how he controls that dark passenger, if you will. Or going in there and being touched and feeling significant to these ladies that are giving him a massage. And Steven Wright, he had a family. He was married twice, actually, with that, and he has a son as well. And then he would get later on, they divorce him, and he would be next in reference to another relationship, and that person couldn't make themselves available to him. And so what ended up happening was he spent most of his time, I should say, in the district there, in our red light district. And while he was speaking to his brother, He always seemed highly depressed and suicidal, according to his brother as well, because Mom, she left her. His dad was a military policeman, and his mom was a nurse. There's a lot of structure, a lot of things to develop to Mom and Dad. In Conrad, his father and mother, they had gone their separate ways, and so the boys had this just like military lifestyle. And I believe that Stephen craved that feminine energy, and then I think there was a resentment as well that Mom left, and I can't hold a marriage today, can't hold a second marriage, can't hold on to a relationship. And by doing this, I didn't have a relationship with my son, so I feel like he was coming apart there, or he just wasn't of value, you see. Wasn't significant, but was a way to make me fulfill my fantasy, become known forever, do something totally chilling that will just shock the world. And if you look at what the signs of Jack the Ripper and how it still affects the world today, well, you can only imagine what's going through Stephen's head when the news writings in the media for him as the Suffolk Ripper. And that's exactly what was happening. And so putting all this evidence now together from blood work, sex workers, and then later the PTSD and the not really there, like when you interview him, no guilt, like I was meant to do this. I was meant to be this person. He found it finally, his purpose, to what he was supposed to do.
Stephen Gerald James Wright. The story ends behind bars. He's serving a whole life sentence at HM prison, long lock. So the good news is that this person, this monster, or this dark passenger of his PTSD, will never be released. In February of 2008, Wright was found guilty of murdering 5 women in Ipswich during a 6-week spree in the late 2000s. The judge described the crimes as systematic, meaning it was a whole part of him, cold-blooded, and imposed a whole life order. A rare sentence in the UK reserved for the most dangerous offenders, he says, is what I'll be showing you. Even during this time, Wright still showed little, if not any, emotion during the trial, and has never publicly expressed remorse. Wright is under their highest security facility in the HM prison, Long Martin Prison in Worcestershire. He is reportedly kept under close watch due to his notoriety of his crime and the risk that inmates who want to build their reputation will do and may even cause him harm. Now, there is an ongoing investigation that in 2019, Wright was arrested in connection to the 1999 murder of Victoria Hall, who was a 17-year-old girl who was abducted and killed in Suffolk. He was later released under investigation, and no charges were filed to that. It doesn't matter, though, because he's in for the one that he did do. The police will continue to examine any possible links between the other unsolved crimes. And yet, this legacy, unfortunately, will still go on, says the officers. This person has built up a reputation, and he's living high on the hog. But at least other people now, from this point forward, will be protected. And as far as the red light district, if you will, of Ipswich, it hasn't shown the same flair like it did back in the day when he was there. Hopefully, it's being more and more cleaned up, so people can get rid of dark passengers and monsters such as Steven Wright.
So one of the things that hasn't been said just yet is how exactly did they catch Steven Wright? So after speaking to these women, they decided to go and take a better look at him. And when they looked at the time that the crimes would have transpired, they noticed that through CCTV that Stephen Wright's vehicle, as well as on foot, was in the vicinity of this area in Ipswich. So they said, you know what, we might have enough evidence here now, at least with the video footage. The women who told us that he's a little odd and he's also been in this area on those evenings, let's investigate him. So they get a warrant, they go over there, they check his vehicle. There's trace evidence within the fibers of the identities of some of the women that were missing. It connected to his vehicle. Then they were able to go into his home and they noticed that fingerprints and glass and other memorabilia was there that also connected him to the crime. And then in the end, even his significant other at the time, a woman that he was seeing, she also emphasized his fantasies, his ways were just totally off the reservation, totally just not with me, but elsewhere. So when they put all these together, it was enough to get him and incarcerate him and put him in prison for the rest of his life. But again, here's a guy that to most people looked the norm. Walk in the streets, stop in a bar or a pub, have a couple beers, never really putting a red flag. And that is the scary thing about these killers, the Ted Bundys, the people that appear, the Stephen Wrights, normal in our society. Know what to look for. Know the code. There is a great book by Dr. Phil called Life Code, and it tells you exactly what codes to look for in reference to Machiavellian, someone that knows how to manipulate a narcissistic personality, all of these things that make them look off the radar. I would never suspect, I would never expect. And that book is a fantastic guide. I highly recommend it. If you like Dr. Phil, or even if you are like, oh, I watched the show, I'm not really into it, get the book. In fact, I actually enjoy it more so on Audible in reference to the audiobook. Dr. Phil actually narrates the book, and there are some really good things because what Dr. Phil wanted to bring out there was what many other books are not bringing out, the red flags and how to really indicate them. And what helped him, he goes, I noticed books are missing a lot of pieces, and I want to make sure that people are safe and comfortable and able to know what they're dealing with out there. So definitely look into Dr. Phil's book, their Life Code or The Life Code. But this will end our video podcast, Criminal Psychology Files, today. Please tune in for our next video as well in reference to the crimes, the ghost, and the monsters that lay upon us and that are out there. So until next time, have a great day or evening wherever you are.